"I'm not cheating," she said, her voice trembling just enough to sound human, but not enough to sound sorry. "I'm just finally with someone who appreciates the real me." For a moment, I didn't breathe. The words hung in the air between us, quiet, sharp, final, like glass that had just cracked but hadn't shattered yet. I remember her face. Her eyes didn't meet mine. They were somewhere else, far away, lost in some version of her life I wasn't invited into. And all I could think was, how did we get here? We used to talk about everything. The late-night drives, the inside jokes about burnt pasta, the way she'd hum off-key when brushing her teeth. It all felt small now, like memories of strangers who used to be us. I tried to laugh, maybe to keep myself from falling apart. "Someone who appreciates you," I asked. "After everything we built, that's what you think this is about?" She didn't answer, just looked at the floor. Her silence was worse than any confession could be. The apartment was too quiet. Even the clock on the wall stopped ticking, or maybe I just couldn't hear it over my own heartbeat. It felt like the moment before a storm, still, suffocating, charged with something heavy you can't name. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab her and shake the truth out of her, but instead, I whispered, "Who is he?" She hesitated, that half-second pause that tells you everything before words even arrive. Then softly, like she was confessing to the rain, she said, "His name's Ethan." Ethan, just a name, but it landed like a blade. I didn't know him, not yet, but I knew enough to feel the ground slipping beneath me. Enough to know that I wasn't her safe place anymore. She kept talking, and her words came like tiny earthquakes. "He listens to me, he understands me, he makes me feel alive again." Alive again. That phrase kept echoing in my head long after she said it, like I'd somehow been the one killing her slowly without noticing. Maybe I was. Maybe I got too comfortable, too busy, too predictable. Maybe I stopped seeing her the way I used to. Or maybe she just wanted something, someone, new to mirror the parts of herself she thought she'd lost. I didn't say any of that. I just stood there numb as she gathered her coat and phone. The scent of her perfume lingered, faint lavender and guilt. She didn't slam the door. She closed it gently, like she was afraid to wake something. But she did. She woke everything. That night I sat on the couch for hours, staring at the blank TV screen. The city outside kept living, cars passing, laughter spilling from the bar across the street. Life didn't pause for heartbreak. Around 2 a.m. I checked her messages. Not proud of it, but I did. Her words to him were softer than anything she'd said to me in months. She sent him selfies, the kind of smiles I thought were gone, and there it was. The truth I couldn't unsee. I wasn't part of her story anymore. I'd become the background noise. I didn't sleep. Couldn't. When morning came, I made coffee for one out of habit. The steam rose, but the warmth didn't reach me. Everything felt distant, muted, like I was watching my life through fogged glass. A text came through later. From her, "I need space. Don't make this harder than it already is. Space." As if I hadn't been giving her space for months, emotional miles she'd already filled with someone else. I stared at that message for what felt like forever. Then I typed back one word, "Okay." Not because I was okay, but because fighting for someone who's already gone feels like trying to hold smoke. Days blurred. The apartment turned into a museum of her absence, her coffee mug, her books, her jacket still hanging by the door. I couldn't bring myself to move anything. It felt like erasing her would mean erasing the life we had. Sometimes I'd catch myself waiting for her footsteps in the hallway. They never came. Just silence, thick, honest silence. My friends told me to move on. "Go out," they said. "You'll meet someone else." But I didn't want someone else. I just wanted to understand how love could die so quietly. One night, I scrolled through her social media. Her profile was still public. There she was smiling beside him. Ethan, they looked happy, or maybe just convincing. Her caption read, "New beginnings," and in the comments people cheered her on. "Proud of you. You deserve happiness." No one knew the cost of her happiness. I shut my laptop and sat in the dark. It wasn't just heartbreak. It was grief, the kind you feel when someone's still alive but gone forever. I kept replaying her words in my head. "I'm just finally with someone who appreciates the real me." And somewhere between the echoes of that sentence, I realized maybe she wasn't lying. Maybe she truly believed that. And that hurt even more than betrayal. I didn't know it yet, but that night marked the end of the man I used to be. The naive one who believed love alone could save anything. Because sometimes, love isn't enough. Sometimes it's the thing that breaks you, so you can learn what survival really means. And as I stared at the ceiling, the dawn starting to seep through the blinds, I whispered to no one, "I'll be fine." But my voice cracked halfway through the lie. Days turned into weeks, and I learned that silence has its own voice. It hums between walls. It sleeps beside you at night. It greets you in the morning before the sun does. Everywhere I looked, she was there and she wasn't. Her toothbrush still by the sink, her book open on the nightstand, a half-read page like a goodbye caught mid-sentence. It's strange how absence weighs more than presence. I started going to work earlier, staying later. Because when you have nothing waiting for you at home, even deadlines feel like company. But grief, it follows you. It sits behind your eyes and waits for quiet moments to whisper her name. I'd catch myself wondering where she was, what she was doing. Then I'd remember I didn't have to wonder. She was probably with him. Ethan. The name felt like a bruise I couldn't stop pressing. At first, I told myself it didn't matter. That she'd find whatever she was looking for, and maybe then she'd remember what we had. But every new photo she posted made that harder to believe. There she was, at a cabin by the lake, laughing, sunlight spilling over her face. Her hair tied differently, her eyes free, and beside her, his hand rested on her knee. It was subtle, but it was enough. Intimate in that quiet, careless way that only belongs to people who think the world is on their side. I stared at that picture for a long time, not out of anger, but because I couldn't recognize the woman in it. She looked alive, and I looked like a ghost watching from the other side of the glass. At night, I replayed everything. The last dinner we had together, the way she barely touched her food, how her phone kept lighting up beside her plate. I'd asked who it was. She said, just work. Funny how lies sound lighter when you want to believe them. I started writing a journal, not because I wanted to, but because words were the only way to bleed without leaving a mess. I wrote about the smell of her shampoo fading from my pillow, about the way her laughter used to fill the gaps between our sentences, about the ache that settled in my chest like an old tenant refusing to move out. And somewhere between the pages, I realized I wasn't angry at her. Not really, I was angry at myself, for missing the signs, for believing routine meant stability, for thinking love was a permanent thing. One evening, after a long day, I stopped by the coffee shop near her office. We used to go there every Friday. I don't know why I did it, maybe to feel close to her again, maybe to test if time had dulled the sting. That's when I saw her. She was sitting by the window, and beside her him, Ethan. He was younger than I expected, maybe mid-30s, confident smile, the kind of man who seemed to belong everywhere. He reached across the table and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. She laughed. That sound, God, that laugh, I hadn't heard it in months. I wanted to look away, but I didn't. I watched. Because part of healing, I guess, is letting yourself see the truth no matter how much it burns. They didn't notice me. Maybe they wouldn't have cared if they did. And that thought, that one hurt the most. That I'd become invisible to the person I once meant everything to. I left without ordering, walked for hours with no direction. The city lights blurred into streaks, red, yellow, white, like the world kept moving and I'd missed my stop. When I got home, I didn't cry. I just sat by the window and let the night wrap around me. The loneliness wasn't loud anymore. It was quiet, familiar, like a scar healing under the surface. Weeks later, a message popped up on my phone, her name. For a second, my heart forgot how to behave. I opened it. Hey. I hope you're doing okay. Just wanted to say I'm sorry if I hurt you. I didn't mean to. I stared at those words. Didn't mean to. As if love could be broken accidentally, I typed a reply, then erased it, over and over. Finally, I just put my phone down and walked away. That night, I dreamt of her. We were sitting on the couch, the old one with the broken armrest. She leaned on my shoulder, eyes closed. Everything was quiet, peaceful. When I turned to kiss her forehead, she disappeared, and I woke up alone, the echo of that silence still humming in my chest. The next morning, I went through our old photos, not to torture myself, but to remember. Because I didn't want bitterness to be the only thing that survived us. In one picture, she's laughing with a smear of frosting on her nose. Another, us dancing barefoot in the kitchen. Back then, we were messy, imperfect, real. And for a moment, I wondered if she ever looked back too. But then, life moved again. And so did I. I started running in the mornings, cooking actual meals instead of living on takeout, reading books I'd abandoned halfway through. It wasn't happiness, but it was motion. And in motion, I found something strange, fragments of peace. The ache was still there, but softer, like a song fading instead of ending. One evening, I saw her post again. A photo, same lake, same smile, but something in her eyes had changed. It wasn't joy anymore. It was something else. Maybe I imagined it, but it looked like doubt. That was the first hint that something was shifting. That the story she'd chosen might not be the ending she'd hoped for. And part of me, the part still bruised and human, couldn't help but wonder what she'd do when the world she left me for began to crumble. It had been almost 5 months since she left. 5 months since I'd heard her voice in person or smelled her perfume in the hallway. 5 months since I'd stopped looking at my phone, hoping for a message that never came. And then one night she knocked on my door. It was late, almost midnight. Rain was falling hard, steady, cleansing the streets in that way that makes everything feel like a memory. At first I thought I imagined it. Then came the second knock, soft, hesitant. When I opened the door, she was standing there, soaked, shivering, eyes swollen and red. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The air between us felt too fragile to touch. "Can I come in?" she asked. Her voice was small, the kind of voice she used to have when she was scared or sorry. I stepped aside silently. She walked past me, dripping onto the floor, clutching her bag like a shield. She looked different. Not in the way I expected, not glamorous, not radiant. She looked tired, like someone who'd been running from something for too long and finally ran out of road. I made her tea. Old habits die slow. She wrapped her hands around the cup but didn't drink, just stared at the steam rising between us. Finally, she whispered, "It's over." I didn't ask what she meant. I knew. Her voice cracked. He wasn't who I thought he was. None of it was real. "I feel so stupid." A tear slipped down her cheek, then another, and all I could do was watch, because part of me had waited for this moment, and part of me wished it never came. She looked up at me, searching for something in my face. Forgiveness, maybe. Familiarity. But I didn't have it to give, not yet. Still, seeing her cry like that, it broke something inside me. Because despite everything, a piece of me still loved her. I said quietly, "You left because you wanted to feel alive. Did he give you that?" She closed her eyes. "At first, yes. He said all the right things. Made me feel sane." Her voice trembled, but then he changed. He wanted control, not love. I thought I was escaping a cage. Turns out I walked into another. She laughed bitterly, the kind of laugh that sounds like choking. "I ruined everything, didn't I?" I didn't answer, because there are no easy words when truth stands between two people like a wound that never healed. "I saw your photos," I finally said. "You looked happy." She shook her head slowly. "I wasn't. I was pretending, for the world, for myself. I thought if I smiled enough, it would feel true." The silence that followed was heavy. The rain outside softened, like even the sky was tired of crying. "I kept thinking about you," she said, "about how you used to look at me like I was enough. I didn't realize how rare that was until it was gone." I turned away, staring at the window, at our reflections blurred by raindrops. Part of me wanted to hold her, to tell her it was okay. But another part, the part that survived those sleepless nights, whispered that forgiveness doesn't mean return. I asked quietly, "Why come back now?" Her eyes met mine, hollow, honest, because I didn't know where else to go. And that answer hit me harder than I expected. She wasn't here because she wanted me. She was here because she needed a place that still felt safe, and for some reason I still was that place. I sat down across from her. The clock ticked softly, the only sound between us. She reached out, her fingers brushed mine. For a second, time folded. All the years, the laughter, the quiet mornings, they came rushing back. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Her voice broke on the word. "I'm so sorry." Tears welled up in my eyes before I could stop them. Because I'd waited months to hear those words, but now that they were here, they didn't fix anything. They just opened the old wound again. I asked her, "Do you love him?" She shook her head instantly. "No. I don't even think I ever did." "Then why did you leave?" Her lips quivered, because I wanted to feel like I mattered, and somewhere along the way, I stopped believing I did. That sentence, it stayed with me. Because it was true, we both stopped seeing each other clearly long before she left. We turned love into habit, and habit into silence. And silence, that's what kills everything eventually. We sat there for a long time, no accusations. No shouting, just two broken people breathing in the same room again. Finally, she said softly, "Can I stay just for tonight?" Her eyes pleaded, and my heart, traitorous as ever, whispered yes before my mind could argue. I nodded once, "Just for tonight." She exhaled, almost in relief. I gave her a blanket and set up the couch. When she lay down, I could see the exhaustion in her face, not just from the rain, but from regret. I turned off the lights and went to my room, but I didn't sleep. I could hear her breathing in the next room, slow, uneven. The sound used to comfort me. Tonight, it only reminded me of everything we'd lost. I stared at the ceiling, torn between what my heart wanted and what my soul knew. She was back, but not the same. And neither was I. Sometimes people come back, not because they've changed, but because they finally see the wreckage they left behind. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes it's not. As dawn crept through the curtains, I whispered to myself, "You can stay, but just for tonight." And for the first time, I meant it. The morning light came gently, thin, golden streaks spilling through the blinds, cutting through the shadows that had lived here for months. For a moment, I forgot she was in the next room. The house felt peaceful again, like it used to before everything fell apart. And then I heard its soft movement, the sound of a blanket folding, the quiet clink of a cup being placed on the counter. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the floor, trying to steady the flood of thoughts in my head. It's strange, after all the nights I spent imagining this moment, it didn't feel the way I thought it would. No cinematic reunion. No tearful apology that fixed everything. Just silence. When I walked into the living room, she was standing by the window, wrapped in my old sweater, the one she used to steal when she was cold. Her hair was a mess, her eyes still red from the night before, but there was something peaceful in her face, like she'd finally stopped running. "Morning," I said softly. She turned, smiled weakly. "You still make good tea." I nodded. Some things don't change. But we both knew that wasn't true. Everything had. For a while we just stood there, listening to the world wake up outside. Cars passing, birds calling, life moving on whether we were ready or not. She broke the silence first. "I didn't sleep much." "I know," I said. Then she looked down, fingers fidgeting with the mug. "I kept thinking about us, how I threw it away." Her voice cracked on the last word, and I felt something tighten in my chest. I wanted to tell her it was okay, that I forgave her, but forgiveness isn't a sentence, it's a quiet thing that happens slowly, without permission. "I hurt you," she whispered. I nodded. "Yes. And you still let me in last night." "I did." She swallowed, blinking back tears. "Why?" I thought for a moment before answering. "Because once upon a time, you were the person I trusted most in this world. And even after everything, a part of me still remembers that." Her eyes filled again. She took a step closer, voice trembling. "Can we try again?" There it was, the question I'd imagined for months. I thought it would make me happy. That I'd say yes without hesitation. But standing there, looking at her, I realized something I hadn't before. I wasn't the same man she left. And the version of her standing before me wasn't the woman I fell in love with. We'd both changed, shaped by pain, guilt, distance. The foundation we once had was gone, and rebuilding it would mean pretending we hadn't already buried it. "I don't think we can," I said quietly. She froze, not angry, not surprised, just still. "Because you can't forgive me." "No," I said, "because I already did." She looked at me, confused. I smiled faintly. "Forgiving you doesn't mean I want to go back. It means I'm ready to move on." The words hung in the air, soft but solid, and I saw the moment she understood. Her shoulders dropped, her eyes glistened. She nodded slowly, the kind of nod people give when they know they can't fight the truth anymore. She set the mug down on the table, walked over and reached out, hesitant, trembling. Her hand brushed against mine. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For still being kind, when you had every reason not to be." I didn't answer. Just held her hand for a moment, not out of love, but out of gratitude for what we once shared. Then, gently, I let go. She took a deep breath, stepped back, and picked up her bag. Her eyes lingered on the apartment, the photos still on the wall, the couch, the little traces of a life we used to share. Then she looked at me one last time. "I hope you find someone who never makes you doubt your worth," she said softly. And before I could reply, she was gone. No drama, no final kiss, no begging. Just the quiet sound of the door closing and peace, settling where pain used to live. I stood there for a long time. The sunlight filled the room completely now. Everything looked the same, but it felt new, like the world had taken a breath after holding it too long. I walked to the window and watched her disappear down the street. Her figure grew smaller with every step, until she was just another stranger moving through the city. And that's when I realized, love doesn't always end with hate. Sometimes it ends with understanding. Sometimes it ends when you finally see that holding on is a kind of quiet cruelty to both people. I poured myself another cup of tea. This time it tasted different, not bitter, not sweet, just warm, simple, honest, real. I sat by the window, listening to the hum of the city below, and for the first time in a long time, I felt light. Maybe this is what healing sounds like. Not silence, not closure. Just the soft echo of a heart finally learning to let go. I looked up at the morning sky and whispered, "Thank you for loving me once." Then I smiled, small, peaceful, because I finally knew what it meant to love without needing to stay. I finally knew what it meant to love without needing to stay.